noticed, there's several portraits on the walls, there's pictures of people, there's pictures, maybe you noticed when you walked in, of our very first pastor. His name was Ben Colton, and he was a slave owner. So, we know that these things are true, and we're grateful to you for helping us to fill in the gaps. And while we have his picture, we have no pictures of the men and women who supported them and built their lives and helped them to stay in the positions they were in. So if you think about it, what you're doing is filling in the color and the gaps in those people's lives and bringing them here to honor them. It is such important work. So important, in fact, that we're using your research. We're going to put it in our church archive in the library, and it'll become part of our story.
These stones help us tell a more accurate story of the town's history. We hope this project has helped you to face the complicated relationship of both slaveholders and enslaved people, including the oppression, dehumanization, paternalism, and agency and resistance involved in this system. We hope these stones can help all of us to acknowledge and bear witness to this system. We hope as you became historians by addressing the historical record, acknowledging injustice, naming the perpetrators, and honoring those who suffered under and resisted its grip, you can understand how our community was built.
As we reflect back on our past, we also must not forget where we are in the present. And we must be reminded that we still have a lot of work to do. This past week, I was traveling with my family across state to Michigan. My daughter was competing in a competition with her school. And we were traveling through upstate New York, through Ohio, over into Michigan. And you know when you're taking road trips, you stop. Stop for pit stop, to get something to drink, use the restroom, whatever the case may be. And we stopped at one particular location. My mom got out of the car, and I was still in the car with my children. And then my mother came back and said, "Look at this," and showed me a picture that she took of someone she saw who was proudly walking through the area at the rest area. There was a gentleman who was walking proud with a shirt on with the Confederate flag. And there were others that were walking along with him as well. Pardon my emotions. It's just a reminder of how far we've come, how far we still have to go. Please let this project remind each and every one of you of the importance of knowing our history, of telling our history, and also being aware of history that is happening here and now in the present. Last night I had the pleasure of attending Interrail. Anyone ever participated in Interrail? All right, it was a wonderful honor to be there and to see the wonderful young people there of all different shades, of all different backgrounds, singing together as one. And when the choir was singing, their final song that they sang really touched my heart, and I said, yep, this is it. This is a reminder of how great our town is, in spite of our past, but how we have an opportunity to continue to be great moving forward. The song that they sang is "Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Round." Now, I cannot sing, but I will share with you the words, so bear with me. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching through the freedom land. Sing it, y'all.
Hartford prides itself on being referred to as a town that cares. The people of West Hartford care deeply about those who have needs such as shelter, food, water, services, advocacy. But in my opinion, there is no greater measure of the care that what you young scholars, fellow educators, town historians, esteemed community members are demonstrating right here in West Hartford through the Whitney Stones movement. I am inspired by your courage, your curiosity, and I am moved by your care.
In 1775, in May of the year prior, it was someone you may have heard of, Benedict Arnold, who was a captain in the colonial militia in New Haven, so in what became the 102nd Infantry 4 centuries later. Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys. And the Green Mountain Boys became the Vermont Army National Guard. So the militia, tracing its history all the way to current times, and that lineage of military service continued to the same unit. Prout served essentially in the same unit that I served nearly 300 years ago. Benedict Arnold was there, and Benedict Arnold remained there through October of 1776 at the Battle of Lake Champlain, when the British tried to take over Fort Ticonderoga. And so I had to ponder and say to myself, is it possible that this slave from West Hartford, who died there at Fort Ticonderoga in September, may have been around these other soldiers, Benedict Arnold, Ethan Allen, the Green Mountain Boys of Vermont, potentially fighting alongside them or working on that fort along with them. And years later, I would be serving with descendants of those same units in Afghanistan. So it really demonstrates for me the excitement of this project and the excitement of what you have participated in, whether you realize it today or not.
Let's start today's podcast by discussing why schools often don't focus on slavery in the history curriculum. What are your thoughts on that?
Slavery is really one of those topics that's very shameful and embarrassing to talk about, and it can be very emotional. And for this reason, it's often skipped over or lightly covered in the classroom because it may evoke negative emotion or be difficult to teach.
Can you describe the slave conditions and how enslaved people were dehumanized?
Enslaved people were only used for profits, and they were treated like property, not like humans. Their names were taken away upon arrival in the New World, and they were given new names. They worked for unreasonably long hours in poor conditions, just so that their slaveholders could get the most profit out of their labor.
What were some of the ways that the enslaved retained their humanity?
So despite being dehumanized in many ways, the enslaved were allowed to attend religious services. Although these services were most likely segregated by race, it still added a human quality to their lives and might have given them a hope of freedom in the future. They also had the potential of learning skills, and they also had some free time.
How did the government play a role in dismantling or maintaining slavery?
One way that the government maintained slavery is by passing several laws, such as the slave codes, which greatly limited the enslaved people's freedoms and made it much more difficult to escape. For example, the enslaved were prohibited from learning how to read, which would make a successful escape much more difficult. The Fugitive Slave Acts also maintained slavery, as they required that all citizens of the United States, whether living in a free or a slave state, help catch African Americans suspected of having escaped slavery.
Time is called down the road. In the chill of the fall, you stand in the cool breeze while picking apples, mindlessly repeating the motions, like in church, where you move faithlessly while praying to a God you don't believe in, with a room filled with those who enslave you. Suddenly, you are taken out of the daze by a sharp call from Captain Hosmer. Come here, boy. Reduced to your gender and the amount of melanin in your skin, and if you've decided to run away, reduced to the amount of money you're worth. Only people who dream of a better world think, can a soul be converted to currency? There's a seemingly endless amount of land to manage. Hundreds of acres filled with other mindless slaves who share the same thoughts of love, freedom, and escape until they are also taken back to reality by an oppressor. Whether it be John Whitman, Stephen Sedgwick, or John Whiting, an oppressor has always been right down the road.